welcome back, guys and gals, boys and girls, children and adults. I hope it's mostly adults watching this because I say some nasty, nasty things. The type of things that make you want to crawl back into the closet, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. But today we're going to be talking about Dead Space 3, an underrated classic. And before you come at me with fire, brimstone, pitchforks, and a lot of balloons filled with AIDS juice and COVID, calm down and hear me out. First off, I have to say that the monetization things when this game released, I guess were pretty scummy. I don't know, I didn't play this until like a year ago, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how bad it actually was, but I heard it was pretty garbage cheeks, Miss Mick Boogersons. You know, I heard it was pretty not bueno on their end. Another thing that people complain about right out of the gate, I actually am gonna say that this was good, was the co-op. I think every game should have a co-op in their campaign. Maybe not gear the game around co-op, because there are parts in this game where the guy who's playing not Isaac is getting the cooler experience just because he hasn't dealt with the monsters before, but we'll get into that. The main reason I wanted to make this video is because I played the Snorristow Protocol, you know, the boring ass knockoff Dead Space that was way worse than Dead Space, but had better graphics than all the Dead Spaces. I don't know, the Callisto Protocol was just a snorefest to me, and it was a hack and slash nightmare of a slog through garbage. And this game starts with a slog through garbage, and by garbage I mean snow and space planet garbage. That is what the beginning of this game is, but it does set an atmosphere. This game set an atmosphere right out of the gate, and I had to appreciate that. I had to rein that in. Not to mention that the thing that most people complain about on this game as well is they're like, well, it doesn't have as much horror. And yeah, it does. Bro, this game has horror, but yes, it's more action focused than the first two games. And the second game is more action focused than the first game. You want to know why, genius? You want to know why? Isaac has killed battled these things at this point 3 goddamn times. 3! Now, the first time, it's going to be more horror. You don't know what you're dealing with. So when these spike-armed buffoons come after you, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do? And he's got his trusty little cutter. He's like, alright, well, time to slash and blast these foes away, you know what I mean? You gotta plow and sand down your enemy to a nice group of sawdust. So then the second game comes along. He's gotten a little better. He's been through the shit. He's spearing them with the poles and giving them the long shafts, you know what I mean? And then the third game. Now we're into journey number 3. And they pull him out of the ashes, they make him join back in, and this time he's here to fucking play back. And that makes sense to me. I mean, that's true character progression through gameplay, in my opinion. You might disagree, and you might have wanted more of a hard horror game that has lots of sneaking and lots of quiet. But for me, this is the perfect progression of the story. This is where it was always going to lead. Now, I think maybe they could have made it a bit harder or whatever to make, or you guys can turn up the difficulty. Actually, I don't have to cope for you motherfuckers at all. Even a little bit, not one iota, because I love this game, and I unapologetically love this game. And the fact that the co-op adds stuff in, and it's scary, and that means that you and your buddies can play one time as Isaac, and then one time as whatever the other dude's name, because I'm terrible with names. Like, the only reason I remember Isaac's name is I went back in and got this footage, and they literally say Isaac like 70 times. I can't even remember the name of, like, my own character in Starfield, and it's named after me, you stupid son of a guns. By the way, while I have you on the rant, go watch my Callisto Protocol video to really see what a bad version of this game looked like. See what they could have made this shit like. Because unless you're a person who dresses up like a baby, has a binky and a diaper for a kink, you will love that video, and I swear you will. I will link it in the comments down below. But as for this game and the fun and the atmosphere it provides, I love it. The gun customization in this game is way past anything I thought it would be. I mean, I like the second game's weapon selection, right? Don't get me wrong, but the fact that it gave you the ability to turn any of your guns into a super powered killing machine and really design the type of playthrough you want, that type of freedom is absolutely insanely amazing, and you don't see it in a lot of games. And the fact that people hated on this game for that type of freedom just goes to show to me that you really don't like video games if you didn't enjoy this. Now, sure, you could say that you wanted more of a horror game. I get that. Like, I understand that if you were disappointed by this being more of a shooter and less of a like hard horror game, we get it. I understand. But at the same time, you have to like look at how cool it is that Isaac is able to handle these creatures at such a better level than he's ever been able to handle them before. Well, not ever. I mean, 2, he did step up quite a bit, and then 3, to have that natural progression, to me, made me more immersed into the game, and I think that's something that was really overlooked in Dead Space 3. And not to mention the fact that even after playing the Callisto Protocol, the people who created this game's come to form. They're come back into the industry. They're come all over the shower walls while jerking off to their own images. They couldn't even handle dismemberment as good as these games could. There's like, it's gory, don't get me wrong. It's a very gory game. But that's about all it has, is like cool gore animations and not really that dismemberment that we've grown to love from the Dead Space games. And this game does dismemberment well. Even on like the non-long-armed, whatever they're called. See, I can't even remember the enemies in all of the Dead Spaces. So I don't know. They start with an M. Mantis. They look like prime mantises, so don't get mad at me when you get all... But look at this gun create, like this menu, where you can just build and create, and it's cool. And I loved the freedom this game gave you. I just think that this game got the raw end of the deal, and I know a lot of it was put on by the developers, by trying to make it a more accessible game, and trying to boost those game numbers, because EA was like, if you don't sell an obscene amount of copies, you will not make a game again. But at the same time, what they did do was bring a really fun experience with a pretty stellar story. I mean, the fact that Isaac is finally getting to the meat and potatoes of the problem here and actually solving it because he's got a above average sized penis, that is dope. And I hear all this hate. And after the Dead Space remake came out, everybody was like, oh, I can't wait for them to remake the second one, which I can't either, because I think the second game is one of my favorite games of all time. And the third game, I think, sits pretty close to that. I mean, the fact that this game's story isn't quite as good as the second. The second has better boss fights. It has a better atmosphere, especially at the beginning of the game. This game gets to that atmosphere, it just takes a while. I do not like this beginning Isaac section. I feel like it sets a good tone, and then it goes to this weird corridor shooter section where it kind of feels like Gears of War. This is the only area of the game where I really felt that it lost its identity from Dead Space, but I do think after this mission it really picks up. It really adopts the same atmosphere. I wish, if like, out of all the things in this game that keep it below Dead Space 2, right, and Dead Space 1, it's mostly atmospheric, which, understandable, like, a lot of people just say this is a bad game because of it, but I do think that it does get the atmosphere. Another thing is, if they would have had, like, Isaac's on the side quests, right, the co-op side quests, or have Isaac trip out a little bit, and see, like, maybe still see different things than his partner sees, but also see something, because my buddy didn't get the same, he loves the game as well, but he didn't get the same experience I did, where I'm losing my goddamn mind seeing like toy soldiers and creepy ass horror things. And a lot of people didn't play the co-op of this, and if they did, they played as Isaac, so they missed out on a whole section of the game that was absolutely terrifying, insane. You're losing your mind, you're fighting Christmas nightmares, and it's one of those things that I wish that the developers would have like at least made like a non-Isaac playthrough, right? You can choose like Resident Evil does. You can choose to play as Isaac or other jabroni, and it'll be pretty much the same game, but you're having the hallucinations as the other guy, because this is the first time he's come in contact with all these monsters. So he's the one having the hard horror moments in the game, because that's what happened to me when I was playing as the other guy on my first playthrough of this game. And I think maybe that's why I love this game so much, is because a lot of the atmosphere you get, I got only on the playing as the second player co-op. So I feel like if they would have done a few tweaks here and there on Dead Space 3, let you play as both characters, Isaac being the more action playthrough, the other guy being the more horror playthrough, because of the fact that he hasn't dealt with these things in the same capacity that Isaac has, he maybe has a little harder time. I felt like maybe when they remake this game, that would be the way I would go about it. I would not completely overhaul this game, because I think that it does have a lot of greatness in it. Like a whole bunch of greatness, and it's written off constantly as this just dog water game, when the fact of the matter is it has the best shooting, it has one of the best gun building mechanics, and some of the best atmosphere in the game when it comes to the second player in co-op. I mean, when you're playing those side quests in co-op and you're as the secondary dude and you're seeing the creepy stuff, there is nothing like it in the entire trilogy that I think really competes with that. His mental decline is so cool, and he ends up having a really interesting character, but you only get that through co-op. So I always tell people, play Dead Space 3 in co-op, always. And then when they do, they end up having the same feeling I did and getting a lot more out of the game. And that is a huge fault to the developers, but I do see the genius behind it. And the fact that this actually ends the series with like on a high or on a good note. And that's why you want a series to end, is on a bang, on a good note. But that's all I got for you guys today. Leave a like, subscribe to my channel, comment how much you think I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, I think Dead Space 3 was a worthy title in the series. Thank you guys so much. Catch you later.